Stop recording. Officer Travis Cole's command cut across the rain-slicked street as sharply as the red and blue lights flashing against the storefront windows. Across the intersection, a city bus driver lowered his phone, but not before the video had already begun uploading somewhere Cole could not reach. On the pavement beside the patrol car, 16-year-old Elijah Brooks kept his hands visible and his voice steady, even as three officers surrounded him like they had already decided what kind of boy he was. His backpack lay open near the curb. A physics book rested in a shallow puddle. Beside it, a small bronze medal caught the pulsing police lights and threw them back in broken flashes. Cole looked down at Eli and smiled without warmth. "Nobody gets to rewrite what happened here," he said. Eli lifted his eyes. His lower lip trembled, but his words did not. "You already did." What the officers did not know was that Eli's damaged phone had placed one final call, and the woman listening on the other end had spent years investigating men who believed a badge could bury the truth. Subscribe and stay with this story, because the person arriving at this scene would not be the only surprise waiting for them. 27 minutes earlier, Eli had stepped out of the Franklin Community Center carrying a paper bag with a cupcake inside for his little sister's birthday. The rain had just started, soft enough to sound like fingertips tapping the awning. He pulled up the hood of his gray sweatshirt and checked the time. His mother had asked him to be home by 7. He was already 12 minutes late. Behind him, children's laughter still floated through the glass doors. Every Thursday, Eli helped middle school students with algebra, refusing the $10 the center director always tried to give him. He said tutoring kept him sharp. The truth was simpler. His father had once told him that knowledge only mattered when it helped somebody else stand taller. Eli carried that sentence everywhere, along with the bronze service medal his father had earned as an army medic. He kept it inside a blue velvet box at the bottom of his backpack, wrapped in an old handkerchief so the edges would not scratch. 3 blocks away, a woman rushed from a convenience store shouting that someone had taken her purse. The actual suspect wore a red jacket and ran north through an alley. Eli wore gray and walked south toward the bus stop. None of that mattered when Cole's cruiser rolled beside him. The window lowered. "You. Stop." Eli stopped immediately. He removed one earbud and turned slowly, remembering every warning his mother had ever given him. "Keep your hands where they can see them. Speak clearly. Do not give anger a place to enter." "Is something wrong, officer?" Cole stepped from the cruiser and looked Eli over, not like a person searching for facts, but like someone searching for confirmation. Officer Derek Mason exited from the passenger side. His hand rested near his belt as he studied the teenager's hoodie, backpack, and dark skin. "Where'd you get the bag?" Cole asked. Eli glanced at the paper sack in his hand. "The community center. It's for my sister." Cole did not ask her name. He did not check the store's description. He simply pointed toward the hood of the patrol car. "Put everything down." Eli obeyed. The cupcake tipped sideways inside the bag. Rain gathered on the white frosting as Cole reached for the backpack. "Sir, may I ask why I'm being stopped?" The question was respectful. Cole heard it as defiance. Somewhere above them, an unseen traffic camera turned slowly toward the street. The traffic camera above the intersection continued its slow mechanical turn, its dark lens gathering the details no one below seemed interested in collecting. Eli stood beside the patrol car with both hands resting where Cole had ordered, rain cooling the back of his neck and soaking through the shoulders of his sweatshirt. He could hear the bus brake sigh at the curb half a block away. He could smell wet pavement, gasoline, and the sweet vanilla from the crushed cupcake bag near his shoes. Cole opened Eli's backpack and removed each item with deliberate carelessness. A calculator. 2 sharpened pencils. A library copy of Introduction to Physics. A folded volunteer schedule from the Franklin Community Center. None of it changed the look on Cole's face. Mason leaned against the passenger door and watched as though the ending had already been written. "You carry identification?" Cole asked. "Yes, sir." "Front pocket?" Eli nodded toward the small zipper pouch. Cole found the student card and held it beneath the patrol car's interior light. Elijah Brooks. 16. He looked up. "What are you doing out here alone?" "Going home." From where? The community center. Doing what? Tutoring. Mason gave a quiet laugh. It was not loud, but it carried. Eli felt the sound settle heavier than the rain. Cole pulled out the blue velvet box next. For the first time, Eli moved without thinking, only half a step forward. Please be careful with that. Both officers looked at him. Eli stopped immediately and returned his hands to the car. Cole opened the box. The bronze medal rested inside the worn handkerchief, its ribbon faded at the edges. Where did you get this? He asked. It belonged to my father. Your father earned it? Mason asked. Eli looked at him. Yes, sir. Mason took the box from Cole and turned it beneath the flashing lights. A kid like you does not usually walk around with something like this. The sentence was spoken casually, almost lazily, but Eli understood every word hidden inside it. He remembered his father standing in their kitchen years earlier, still wearing hospital scrubs after a night shift, telling him that dignity was not something another person could hand him or take away. Fear makes noise, his father had said. Character does not have to. Eli drew one slow breath. You can verify the name on the back, he said. Cole's jaw tightened. You telling us how to do our job? No, sir. I am telling you how to confirm it belongs to my family. Mason glanced at Cole, and something passed silently between them. The rain became steadier, ticking against the cruiser roof and gathering in the open backpack. Cole turned the medal over. The engraved name was visible even from where Eli stood, Daniel Brooks. Below it were the words Army Medical Corps. For half a second, the officer's expression changed. Not with respect, but irritation, as though the truth had become an inconvenience. He placed the medal on the hood instead of returning it to the box. Eli watched a drop of rain strike the bronze surface. May I call my mother? He asked. Cole looked toward the convenience store, then back at the teenager. Why? She going to tell us you are a good kid. She will tell you where I was. She can also bring my birth certificate if you need proof about the medal. Mason stepped closer. You think we need permission from your mother? Eli did not answer. The silence stretched. A few pedestrians had stopped beneath the awning across the street. One of them was Marcus Hill, the city bus driver, still holding his phone low beside his coat. Cole noticed him and shifted his body, blocking the view. Then he pointed toward Eli's pocket. Make the call. Put it on speaker. Eli moved slowly, removed his phone, and pressed his mother's name. 40 miles away, in a federal conference room filled with sealed files and unanswered complaints, Special Agent Renee Brooks looked down as her son's name appeared on the screen. Renee answered on the second ring. Eli. Her voice was quiet, controlled, and immediately alert. Around her, the federal conference room remained still beneath white ceiling lights. A map of the city covered one wall, marked with locations tied to missing complaints, altered reports, and unanswered questions involving the same police district now surrounding her son. Eli looked at Cole before speaking. Mom, I was stopped near Franklin and Mason Avenue. Renee heard rain striking metal, a patrol radio murmuring nearby, and a man breathing too close to the phone. Are you safe? She asked. Eli hesitated. That pause told her more than any explanation could have. I am cooperating, he said carefully. Cole held out his hand. Give me the phone. Eli kept it on speaker. The officers say there was a robbery. Renee pushed her chair back and stood. Across the table, Assistant Special Agent Daniel Price stopped reading and watched her expression change. What is the officer's name? Renee asked. Cole stepped closer. This is Officer Travis Cole. Your son matches the description of a suspect, and he is delaying an active investigation. Renee's eyes moved to the city map. Travis Cole was a name she had seen before. 3 civilian complaints. 2 disputed stops. 1 file closed after body camera footage had supposedly become corrupted. What description? She asked. Cole glanced at Mason. Young male. Dark clothing. Carrying a bag. Age? Renee asked. Unknown. Height? Unknown. Direction of travel. Cole's patience thinned. Ma'am, this is not a courtroom. No, Renee replied. It is a public street, which means your actions are still subject to the law. Eli closed his eyes for 1 second. His mother's tone had not risen, but he recognized it. She used that voice when facts were beginning to arrange themselves into something dangerous. Sergeant Alan Whitmore's cruiser arrived without a siren. He stepped into the rain, broad-shouldered and gray-haired, with the unhurried confidence of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Cole walked toward him and spoke in a low voice. Whitmore looked at Eli, then at the open backpack, the metal on the hood, and the phone in the teenager's hand. He did not ask what happened. He asked whether anyone was recording. Mason scanned the sidewalk. Marcus Hill lowered his phone but kept the camera pointed through the gap between two parked cars. Officer Hannah Reed arrived seconds later and positioned her patrol vehicle behind Cole's cruiser. Her dashboard camera faced the entire scene. Whitmore approached Eli. End the call. My mother is confirming where I was, Eli said. You can speak to her later. Renee heard the new voice. Who is that? Sergeant Whitmore, Eli answered. Silence filled the federal conference room. Daniel Price stood now, already reaching for his jacket. Whitmore was another familiar name. Complaints filed under his supervision had vanished from the department's public database. Renee opened the location application on her tablet. A blue dot appeared at Franklin and Mason, 40 miles from her office. Eli, listen to me, she said. Keep your hands visible. Do exactly what they ask. Do not argue. Yes, Mom. I am coming to you. Whitmore reached for the phone. Eli stepped back instinctively, then stopped himself. Cole's expression sharpened as if the smallest movement had confirmed everything he wanted to believe. He is resisting, Cole said. Hannah Reed looked at Eli's open hands, then at Whitmore. No, Sergeant, she said softly. He is not. Whitmore turned toward her. The rain traced a cold line down the side of her face. For one suspended moment, Hannah understood that the next sentence she spoke could protect a child or protect her career. She looked toward the blinking red light on her dashboard camera. Then Whitmore spoke without taking his eyes off her. Turn that camera off. Hannah's hand hovered near the control panel, but she did not press the button. The dashboard camera continued to blink red through the rain, small and steady, like a heartbeat no one had noticed yet. Whitmore took one step closer to her cruiser. Officer Reed, I gave you an order. Hannah looked past him at Eli. The teenager stood beside the patrol car with his hands visible, his wet sweatshirt clinging to his shoulders, his eyes fixed on the blue velvet box resting open on the hood. The bronze metal inside had begun to collect raindrops. Nothing about him matched the urgent image Whitmore was trying to create. The camera is department property, Hannah said. Then follow department procedure, Whitmore replied. His voice remained calm, which made the warning inside it feel heavier. Cole moved between Eli and the sidewalk, blocking Marcus Hill's view again. Mason reached for Eli's phone. Call is over. Eli tightened his fingers around it, not in defiance, but because his mother's voice was still coming through the speaker. Eli, Renee said, do not pull away. He released the phone at once. Mason took it and stared at the screen. Renee's name was visible, along with the blue location symbol still pulsing beneath it. Your mother tracking you? He asked. She worries when I am late. Mason gave a short smile. Sounds controlling. Eli looked at him. It sounds like a mother. Cole turned sharply. Watch your tone. Eli swallowed. His father's words returned again, quiet beneath the noise of radios and rain. Fear makes noise. Character does not have to. My tone is respectful, Eli said. I am asking you to check the facts. Whitmore glanced toward Cole. What facts? The suspect wore a red jacket, Eli answered. The woman from the store said that before your cruiser stopped me. I was walking south. He ran north. The community center has cameras. My volunteer sign-out sheet has the time I left. Cole stepped closer. You seem very prepared. I am telling the truth. People who are innocent do not rehearse explanations. Eli's chest tightened, but his voice stayed level. People who are scared try to be clear. For the first time, Hannah looked directly at Cole. Something in his expression told her he was no longer trying to determine what happened. He was trying to make Eli regret speaking. Whitmore picked up the bronze medal from the hood and turned it in his hand. Daniel Brooks, he read. Army Medical Corps. Eli watched the medal carefully. That was my father. Was. He died 3 years ago. The rain softened for a moment, leaving the street strangely quiet. Even Cole seemed uncertain what to say. Whitmore placed the medal back on the hood without apology. Then his attention shifted to the small group under the awning. Clear the sidewalk, he ordered. Marcus Hill remained where he was. He wore his transit uniform beneath a dark raincoat, and his phone rested near his chest. I am waiting for my route, Marcus said. You are interfering with an investigation. I am standing on a public sidewalk. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. Put the phone away. Marcus lowered it slowly, but the video continued recording through the opening in his coat. Eli noticed and said nothing. Mason began searching the remaining pockets of the backpack. He found the folded volunteer schedule and held it up. This could be anything. Call the number at the top, Eli said. The director will confirm I was there. Cole looked at Whitmore, waiting. Whitmore did not call. Instead, he took a small notebook from his pocket. Officer Cole, initial reason for detention. Subject matched the description and acted evasive. Hannah looked toward him. He stopped when instructed. Whitmore ignored her. Officer Mason, subject behavior. Mason glanced at Eli, then at Cole. Agitated. Question commands. Reach toward evidence. Eli stared at him. I asked you not to damage my father's medal. Whitmore wrote without looking up. The pencil moved across the paper with a soft scratching sound. One sentence at a time, a new version of the evening was being built. 40 miles away, Renee stood in an elevator with Daniel Price and 2 federal attorneys, watching the blue dot that marked her son's location. Back on the street, Hannah looked again at the red light on her dashboard. She understood now why Whitmore wanted it gone. The camera was not recording confusion. It was recording a choice. Whitmore closed the notebook and slipped it into his coat as though the page inside had become more important than the living people standing in front of him. We are taking him in, he said. Eli felt the words settle in his stomach. The rain had nearly stopped, but cold water still ran from his hood to the collar of his sweatshirt. For what charge? Hannah asked. Whitmore turned toward her. Obstruction and suspected theft. There is no evidence of theft, she said. There is a medal with another man's name. Eli looked at the bronze surface shining beneath the patrol lights. That man was my father. Whitmore did not look at him. Cole picked up the blue velvet box and shut it with one hand. You can explain it downtown. Mason held Eli's phone near his chest, keeping the call active without realizing Renee could still hear every word. Inside the federal vehicle moving through evening traffic, she sat rigid beside Daniel Price. The city blurred beyond the windows in streaks of white and red. They are creating probable cause after the stop, Daniel said quietly. Renee did not answer. She listened to the rain, the radio static, and her son trying to keep his breathing even. Back on the street, Eli glanced toward Hannah's cruiser. The red light on the dashboard camera was still blinking. Hannah followed his gaze, then looked away before Whitmore could notice. Cole directed Eli toward the rear of the patrol car. Hands behind your back. Eli obeyed. I have not done anything, he said. That is not your decision, Cole replied. The words were calm, almost ordinary, and that frightened Eli more than shouting would have. They sounded practiced. Marcus Hill stepped away from the awning. Officer, the boy has been cooperative the entire time. Whitmore faced him. Sir, leave the area. I saw the whole stop. Then you can provide a statement later. To whom? Marcus asked. The same department writing this report. The sidewalk became silent. Cole moved toward Marcus, but Whitmore raised one hand. Do not make this harder than it has to be. Marcus looked at Eli. For a brief second, neither spoke. Then Marcus tapped his coat pocket twice. Eli understood. The video was safe. Mason opened the rear door of the cruiser. The interior smelled of vinyl, damp fabric, and old disinfectant. Eli looked at the seat, then back at the metal on the hood. Please put that in the box. Cole stared at him. Get in the car. It is the only thing I have left from my father. Something shifted in Hannah's face. She walked to the hood, lifted the metal carefully, and placed it inside the velvet box. Her fingers were steady, but her voice was not. I will secure it with his property. Whitmore watched her. That was not necessary. It was evidence, Hannah said. I was preserving it. Cole gave a low laugh. Now she cares about procedure. Hannah ignored him and carried the box to her cruiser. As she passed the dashboard, she pressed one small button beneath the steering column. The red light disappeared. Whitmore saw it and relaxed. What he did not know was that Hannah had not turned the camera off. She had disabled only the visible indicator. The recording continued, silent and unseen. Eli lowered himself into the rear seat. Through the open door, he could still see the community center 3 blocks away, its windows glowing warmly through the wet evening. He thought about his little sister waiting for the cupcake that now lay crushed near the curb. He thought about his mother 40 miles away, believing she could reach him before the story hardened into a report. Whitmore leaned toward Cole. Right that he reached for your equipment. Hannah heard him. Marcus heard him. The hidden camera heard him. Cole nodded once. Then a dispatcher's voice crackled. Over the radio. All units, robbery suspect detained 6 blocks north. Red jacket, stolen property recovered. No one moved. Mason looked at Cole. Cole looked at Whitmore. The facts had arrived too late to stop what they had started, but early enough to expose it. Whitmore reached for the radio and turned down the volume. We proceed, he said. At that exact moment, black federal vehicles turned onto Franklin Avenue. The black vehicles slowed beneath the traffic light and came to a stop along the curb, their dark windows reflecting the last pale color of evening. No sirens announced them. No doors opened in haste. For several seconds, the street seemed to hold its breath. Renee stepped from the lead vehicle wearing a charcoal suit beneath a raincoat, her identification still hidden inside the inner pocket. Daniel Price and 2 federal attorneys followed several steps behind her, but she barely noticed them. Her eyes had already found the patrol car. Through the rain-streaked rear window, she saw Eli sitting alone with his shoulders drawn inward and his hands held behind him. One side of his sweatshirt was dark with rain. His physics book lay open in the gutter, its pages lifting and falling in the wind. Near the front tire, the paper bag meant for his sister had collapsed into the wet pavement. Renee stopped. Every instinct inside her urged her forward, but years of training held her still long enough to see the entire scene. Cole stood near the rear door. Mason held Eli's phone. Whitmore remained beside the hood with his notebook hidden beneath his coat. Hannah stood near her cruiser, one hand resting close to the dashboard. Marcus Hill watched from the sidewalk, his face tense but steady. Renee took one slow breath and crossed the street. Her shoes made almost no sound against the wet asphalt. Cole noticed her first. Ma'am, stay behind the vehicles. Renee continued walking. That is my son. Eli lifted his head. The moment he saw her, something in his face loosened, but he did not call out. He only watched her approach as though the distance between them was the last thing keeping the evening from becoming real. Cole shifted into her path. This is an active investigation. Renee looked past him at the open rear door. Is he under arrest? He is being detained. For what? Whitmore stepped forward. Suspected theft and obstruction. Renee glanced toward the radio inside Cole's cruiser. The dispatcher's message about the actual suspect still glowed across the small screen. Red jacket. Stolen property recovered. 6 blocks north. She said nothing. Not yet. She moved around Cole and knelt beside the open car door, careful not to touch Eli or anything around him. Up close, he looked younger than 16. Rain clung to his eyelashes. His breathing was measured with painful precision. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Eli swallowed. "I am still here." Renee closed her eyes for half a second. It was not relief. It was restraint. When she opened them again, her voice remained quiet. "I heard the call." Eli looked toward Whitmore, then Hannah, then the hidden place beneath Marcus Hill's coat where the phone was still recording. "They did not check the camera at the community center," he said. "They did not call the director. The person they wanted was wearing red." "I know. Mom, do not make this only about me." Renee studied him. Even inside the patrol car, even with his father's medal taken from his hands and his birthday promise lying ruined near the curb, Eli was thinking beyond himself. "What do you mean?" she asked. "They were not afraid until you came." His voice dropped lower. "What happens to the next kid whose mother cannot come?" The question passed through her more deeply than anger could. Behind them, the traffic light changed from red to green, though no car moved. Hannah looked down. Marcus tightened his grip on the phone. Even Daniel Price remained silent. Renee rose slowly and turned toward the officers. There was no rage in her posture, no threat in her face. Only a calm so complete that Cole's confidence began to weaken beneath it. "Before anyone moves this vehicle," she said, "I want the scene preserved exactly as it is." Whitmore gave a thin smile. "And who are you to give that order?" Renee reached inside her coat. Renee drew a leather credential case from inside her coat and opened it beneath the flashing patrol lights. The gold seal caught the wet glow from the street, and the identification beneath it was clear enough that no one needed to lean closer. Special Agent Renee Brooks, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Civil Rights Division. Cole's face emptied first. Mason lowered Eli's phone as though it had suddenly become evidence against him. Whitmore did not move, but the confidence in his eyes narrowed into calculation. Behind Renee, Daniel Price displayed his own credentials while the two federal attorneys began documenting the vehicles, the open backpack, and the items scattered near the curb. Renee closed the case. "Now release my son." Whitmore recovered quickly. "Federal credentials do not give you control over a local detention." "Correct," Renee said. "The Constitution does." She looked toward the cruiser radio. "Your dispatcher confirmed that the robbery suspect was detained 6 blocks north wearing a red jacket, with the stolen property in his possession. Elijah was walking south in gray clothing. What lawful basis remains for holding him?" Cole opened his mouth, but Whitmore answered first. "He obstructed an investigation and behaved aggressively." Renee's gaze moved to Eli, still seated quietly in the rear of the patrol car. "Describe the aggression." Whitmore said nothing. "Was it when he stopped as ordered?" Hannah asked. Every face turned toward her. She stood beside her cruiser with rainwater darkening the shoulders of her uniform. Her hands were trembling, but her voice had become steady. "Or when he placed his belongings on the hood. Or when he asked us to call the community center." Whitmore stared at her. "Officer Reed, you should be very careful." "I have been careful," Hannah replied. "That is why the dashboard camera is still recording." Cole looked toward the dark control panel. "You turned it off." "I turned off the indicator." The silence that followed felt larger than the street. Hannah opened the cruiser door and reached beneath the dashboard. A soft electronic tone sounded, followed by a screen displaying the recording time. 42 minutes. Every order. Every unanswered question. Every word Whitmore had told Cole to place in the report. Mason's breathing changed. He looked at Whitmore as if waiting for another instruction, but none came. Renee stepped closer to Hannah. "Has the file been uploaded to the department server?" "Not yet," Hannah said. "The vehicle is still buffering locally." Daniel Price removed a sealed evidence drive from his case. "Then no one touches that system until an independent technician makes a forensic copy." Whitmore moved toward the cruiser. "That vehicle belongs to my department." Daniel stepped into his path. "And the recording may now be evidence in a federal civil rights investigation." Across the street, Marcus Hill emerged from beneath the awning. He held his phone openly this time. "You will want this too." Cole recognized him and stiffened. "I told you to stop recording." "You told me," Marcus said. "You did not stop the upload." He turned the screen toward Renee. A message showed that the video had been saved to a secure cloud account 18 minutes earlier. "My bus has cameras too," he continued. "Front, side, and interior audio. It was parked right there when the stop began." 3 separate records now surrounded the officers: Hannah's hidden dashboard footage, Marcus's phone video, and the transit system camera mounted above the bus windshield. Then Renee looked upward. The city traffic camera turned slowly above the intersection, its lens facing the exact place where Eli had been stopped. "Daniel," she said, "contact municipal traffic control and preserve that feed." "Already doing it." Whitmore's face had gone pale, but he made one final attempt. "This is being exaggerated because the boy is your son." Eli leaned toward the open patrol door. "No," he said. Everyone looked at him. "It matters because you believed I was nobody's son." Renee held his gaze for a moment, then turned to Cole. "Remove the restraints." Cole hesitated. Hannah stepped forward. "I will do it." She opened the rear door and released Eli, then handed him the blue velvet box. He opened it carefully. His father's medal rested inside, damp but unharmed. As Eli stepped onto the street beside his mother, Daniel received a message on his phone. He read it once, then looked at Renee. The suspect confessed. The store camera confirms everything. The last part of Whitmore's story collapsed without a sound. Renee faced all 3 officers. "Preserve your body cameras, radios, written notes, and department messages. Effective immediately, this scene is connected to an active federal inquiry." Cole stared at her badge. Mason stared at the ground. Whitmore stared at Hannah's camera, finally understanding that the smallest red light on the street had never been the greatest danger. The danger was the truth continuing to exist after he had ordered it erased. The federal inquiry did not begin with a press conference. It began in a quiet hospital room 3 hours later, where rain tapped softly against the window and the smell of antiseptic settled over everything. Eli sat upright on the edge of the bed wearing a clean sweatshirt Daniel Price had purchased from the gift shop. His father's medal rested in the blue velvet box beside him. Renee stood near the window with her arms folded, watching the city lights blur across the wet glass. She had already answered calls from the United States Attorney's Office, the city inspector general, and the head of the police department. Cole, Mason, and Whitmore had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Hannah's recording had been copied twice and sealed. Marcus's video had been verified. The transit cameras and traffic feed had been preserved before anyone could alter them. On paper, everything was moving exactly as it should. Inside the room, nothing felt simple. "They have enough to clear you completely," Renee said. Eli looked down at the medal. "That is not what I am worried about." She turned from the window. "What are you worried about?" "The other names." Renee said nothing. Eli had seen the folders on her kitchen table weeks earlier, each one marked with a date, a badge number, and a complaint that had gone nowhere. At the time, she had told him they were part of a larger review and changed the subject. Now he understood why Cole and Whitmore had sounded familiar to her. "How many people complained about them before tonight?" he asked. Renee pulled a chair closer. "Enough that we were already examining the pattern." "Were any of them believed?" "Not enough." The words hung between them. Eli looked toward the door, where Daniel stood speaking quietly with a nurse. "If this only becomes important because I am your son, then they win in a different way." Renee sat down. "You did nothing wrong by having someone come for you." "I know." His voice remained calm. "But Marcus was there because he chose to stay. Officer Reed kept the camera running because she chose not to look away. What about the people who had no witness? What about the ones whose videos disappeared?" Renee studied his face. He looked tired, but there was no revenge in him. Only a clarity that made her chest tighten. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. Eli closed the velvet box. "Do not build a case around me. Build it around what they do when they think nobody important is watching." That sentence became the center of everything that followed. Renee requested an independent federal team so no one could claim she had directed the case for personal reasons. Hannah provided copies of older reports she had once been told to revise. Mason, facing the recordings and the dispatcher log, asked for an attorney and eventually admitted that Whitmore had ordered officers to use the phrase aggressive movement whenever a stop needed justification. Cole refused to cooperate. Whitmore insisted the department was being targeted. The evidence answered both of them. Investigators found deleted body camera files, altered timestamps, and complaints reassigned to inactive categories. 11 people were contacted. 7 agreed to testify. One was a delivery driver who had lost his job after an arrest that was later dismissed. Another was a college student stopped outside her own apartment. None of them had an FBI agent for a mother. For the first time, that no longer made them invisible. Weeks later, Hannah visited Eli at the Franklin Community Center. Children worked through fractions at the tables behind him while afternoon sunlight warmed the windows. She stood near the doorway holding her patrol cap in both hands. "I should have spoken sooner," she said. Eli looked at her. For a long moment. "You spoke when it mattered." Hannah lowered her eyes. "It should have mattered before me." "Then make sure it does next time." She nodded. There was no dramatic forgiveness, only a responsibility accepted between two people who understood that courage arriving late was still required to keep moving forward. 1 year later, sunlight poured through the tall windows of the Franklin Community Center, warming the same tables where Eli still helped children solve equations every Thursday afternoon. The room looked different now. Along one wall stood a simple wooden display bearing 11 names, each belonging to someone whose complaint had once been ignored, altered, or quietly buried. No photographs of Eli hung there. He had refused that. He said the story had never been only his. The federal investigation had ended with clear consequences. Whitmore was convicted of falsifying records and obstructing a civil rights investigation. Cole was removed from law enforcement and held accountable for unlawful stops connected to several victims. Mason accepted responsibility, cooperated with investigators, and testified about the pressure officers had faced to protect the department instead of the public. The city created an independent review office with the authority to preserve camera footage before local supervisors could access it. Hannah Reed left patrol work and joined that office, where her first rule was written in plain language above the evidence desk: every person deserves to be believed long enough for the facts to speak. Marcus Hill remained a bus driver. He turned down every interview offer that tried to make him famous. When people thanked him for recording, he always gave the same answer: "I did not save the truth. I only refused to look away." On the anniversary of the stop, the community center held no celebration. There were no balloons, no speeches from politicians, and no cameras invited inside. Families gathered quietly beneath the wall of names. Some had waited years to hear that what happened to them mattered. Others had never expected anyone to say it aloud. Renee stood near the back of the room without her federal coat or credentials. For once, she was not there as an agent. She was simply Eli's mother. Eli approached the display carrying the blue velvet box. He opened it and removed his father's bronze medal, now polished but still marked by a faint scratch across one edge. He placed it beneath the names. Renee stepped beside him. "Your father would be proud," she said. Eli looked at the medal, then at the children working across the room. "He would tell me not to stop here." Renee smiled softly. "That sounds like him." Hannah walked over and stood several feet away, uncertain whether she belonged in the moment. Eli noticed and motioned for her to come closer. She looked at the wall for a long time. "I still think about how close I came to turning that camera off," she said. "But you did not," Renee replied. Hannah shook her head. Courage should not depend on the last second. Eli met her eyes. "Maybe not. But the next right choice still matters." No one answered. Outside, a city bus slowed near the curb, its brakes releasing with a familiar sigh. Afternoon light moved across the metal and touched every engraved name above it. The room became still, not with fear, but with recognition. Justice had not arrived because one powerful person walked through the door. It arrived because a teenager held on to his dignity, a witness protected what he saw, and one officer finally chose truth over silence. Kindness had not made them weak. Restraint had not made them powerless. Their strength was proven by what they refused to become. Eli closed the empty velvet box and placed it beside the metal. Then he returned to the nearest table, where a young boy was struggling with a math problem. He sat beside him, picked up a pencil, and said, "Let us try it another way." Behind him, the sunlight remained on the wall. If you had been standing on that street, knowing that speaking up could cost you your job, your safety, or the respect of people around you, would you have protected yourself, or would you have protected the truth?